welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to a discussion show surrounding our new stadium on the Bramley Moore Dock, and in particular, which club icons should get a statue outside the new arena when it opens. To discuss that, I've got Terry and Max with me. So I'll start with Terry this time. Who, if you had to choose, Terry, would get a statue at the Bramley Moore?
Well, we're working on the assumption that we're not taking the ones from Goodison with us. We're going to do Bramley one. Right.
I'm hoping for like a new name as opposed to maybe Dixie or the old Trinity.
Well, I was going to say, I wasn't going to suggest Dixie because that's just, standard, isn't it? Dixie team will be there, but there'll obviously be, as we've seen, sites for like a couple of statues. I personally would love to see a Neville Southall one. I think Neville Southall is just, he's one of the most iconic players in the club's history. And, he was involved in the successful teams of the 80s, title wins, cup wins. And he's just synonymous, really, with Everton. Other players, he went on to play for other teams. If they were successful at Everton, they also had success elsewhere. Neville Southall is just a crystallised Everton player. He embodies the club and he embodies the sort of spirit of the supporters, because you'd be hard pressed to find an Evertonian who doesn't love Neville Southall, so he'd be my fair shout alongside the obvious one like Dixie Dean.
Brilliant shout that, and also I think it's worth noting that you don't often get statues of goalkeepers. It's very rare, and I think obviously we haven't got one yet, so it'll be a nice little change, and obviously who better than the most capped Everton player, let's not forget.
Yeah, true.
Of course.
What about you, Max?
Well, for me, I think we've got a pretty straightforward criteria to go by. I mean, around war times, I'd probably say you've got your T.G. Jones, I'm trying to think, any other names that kind of stick out to me. Yeah, Ted Sager.
Tommy Lawton.
Ted Sager, another goalkeeper to add to Terry's collection there. But I think your exclusive criteria from your 60s and your 80s. I would quite like the sort of immortalisation, if you will, as the classic image of Brian LeBone placing the FA Cup on Mike Trebleco's head. Have you seen it after we beat Sheffield Wednesday? Yeah, after we won that 3-2. I forget the name of the other player that's doing it, but they're standing either side the Trebleco and they've got the FA Cup on his head. I think that would be a pretty interesting.
I think it's Jimmy Gabriel, isn't it, the other fella?
Is it? Yeah, of course. Gabriel's another one that you could definitely immortalise. Yeah, I'd say Labby is my all-time favourite Everton player. I mean, literally lived down the road from me, and he just embodied Everton as far as I'm concerned, and just the ultimate definition of a captain. So I'd definitely like to see Labby immortalised, and then you sort of flash forward to your 80s. You can take your pick, really, can't you? I mean, the squad to win our first ever European honour. Southall is probably, the pick of the bunch, but Ratcliffe, Mountfield, when you look at the attacking options, Gray, Sharp. I mean, you're a bit lost for choice, but I think statues are the weird one. I personally don't think we'll see any further additions unless something sort of really comes up in a couple of years. Because I mean, obviously, I think the standout example of it is Fulham's owner, Shaq Khan, with his tribute to Michael Jackson, and I don't think we're going to be doing anything like that anytime soon. But
we'll see. We have Jerry Seaman.
I don't know, mate, but we'll see. Just need to get the bloody ground built first, eh?
Last year, I think.
This year he'll have a statue of Jim White.
What, with his mobile in his hand?
Yeah, definitely. The yellow tie.
Well, the whole statue's bronze except the tie, which is like bright yellow.
Yeah, they'll gold plate the tie.
Belter.
Go ahead, James. How about you?
For me, it's a really difficult one. As I said, Neville Southall at first myself, to be honest with you. But if it was actually hard pressed, I'd probably go with. And I know that this one will probably raise a few more eyebrows, but I'd probably go with. I know a lot of people try and say maybe he isn't a legend, but I'd go with Duncan Ferguson myself. Particularly for me growing up, and also I think the fact that that's only been hammered home by how well he did in his caretaker manager spell a few months ago as well. I think just the sort of impact that he's had on the club, and particularly in a sort of dark time as well, where there wasn't much else to shout about. He was probably the sole reason that the sort of fans stuck together and got through that time.
Well, Dunk's for me, like he's definitely the most recent, like, you know, consideration, or, you know, you could feasibly say, you know, him, because there's been popular players, but Duncan Ferguson, you know, was part of currently the last team to win a trophy for the club. So he's definitely, you know, he's you know, there's images of him with a trophy that you can build a statue out of, you know, that kind of thing.
The one with the blue nose, like behind me. Here he is.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have one of Ferguson just because there's other candidates, you know, who would be ahead of him. I'd left this one. I felt was a really obvious one. I left it because I didn't want to hoover up all the obvious choices in my first answer. But Howard Kendall.
Oh, of course.
A great man. Like,
I'm gonna say, have we ever sort of had anything for a tribute towards him?
Yeah,
we've got the Holy Trinity statue with the three of them, haven't we?
The Gladys Street as well as the Howard Kendall Gladys Street, isn't it? But I'd like to see, you know, if we were looking at, if I was going through Everton, you know, names for statues, I think Dixie Dean obviously is number one. You've got the Holy Trinity, because that includes Ball and Harvey as well. But I think Howard Kendall as a manager, even though we had like a couple of spells and like the later ones weren't as successful, just that era in the 80s, when he really re-established Everton as one of the top clubs in the country. I think Howard Kendall is probably, you know, if you were taking bets, I think he'd be the odds-on favourite to be the next one after the two that are already done. But him as a manager rather than him as part of the Holy Trinity.
Yeah, I could most definitely see a stand named in his honour again, really, because it wasn't for very long that we had as you say, the Howard Kendall Gladys Street and the Sir Philip Carter Park End. So
yeah, maybe it'll be something like, if it's not a statue, it might be just a Howard Kendall Riverside stand or something like that, or you know, North stand, South. You know, don't think the South stand would be named that because it's going to be the big one, but they might have a Howard Kendall, like, you know, main stand or something like that. Anyway,
definitely,
I think it's definitely a good shout. I mean, do you reckon the two current statues will move to Bramley Moore, or will they be kept as part of the legacy plans, do you think?
It's been debated, hasn't it? I've seen it. It's inspired quite a bit of conversation online on like Twitter and that. Some people saying that they don't think it will. Some people saying that they think it will. Like, I don't know. Obviously, with the sort of contingency plans for Goodison Park and the whole sort of renovations and legacy project that they plan to leave there, it would seem a bit odd to just leave those two bronze statues slap bang in the middle of like apartment buildings and a park. But so you would like to see it taken down and made use of.
I do know that they converted Highbury into like a block of luxury flats, and I'm sure they kept a statue or something or other in the middle of the courtyard in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice little tribute. Like, I know that they're planning on leaving like the centre circle of Goodison, aren't they? And little things like that. So I mean, who knows?
I think they put the statue that I'm on about to Highbury. I think they put that where the centre circle used to be, in that courtyard. I think it was quite an interesting little touch. But whether we do the same, I know I've saw like artist impressions of what they're going to do after Goodison's knocked down, and it's a little bit more asymmetric, let's say, to what Arsenal did with Highbury. So maybe it's not possible to do exactly what they did, but I'd like to see one of the statues left there as part of that legacy, and obviously all the other sort of like blue base and stuff like that will stay where it is, no doubt. So I think they've definitely got a good idea in place for the preserving the legacy of Goodison. But obviously the statue idea at Bramley Moore, I think there's going to be a bit more space to maybe put a few statues, but is it one of them? Is it important not to sort of wear out the value of the statues by putting loads of them in?
Great point. That's a really good point. Yeah, as I say, they're quite a novelty in football in particular. I don't think we should abuse it at all.
To be honest, I actually feel the opposite. I don't feel like it's wearing it out personally. For me, it's like, we're Everton. We've got loads of top, you know, legendary players. Like, I'm not saying you have a statue for all of them. There'll be some who, you know, could feel hard done by. But I definitely think, you know, there's room for 3, maybe even 4 statues on the site, as long as they're appropriately placed. But you're going to have to be really like elite with who you pick. You know, like, as we say, Ferguson, great player, beloved by most Evertonians. I could feel comfortable saying, but I wouldn't go so far as to give him a statue. But Dixie Dean, the Holy Trinity, you know, Howard Kendall, Neville Southall, I think four like that, but there's definitely room to have all of them. And just on the previous point, I'd like to see the two statues we've already got left there as part of like the heritage site there, and maybe you could convert them, move them slightly, whatever. But the ones who are featured in those statues definitely, make new ones of them. You couldn't possibly have an Everton stadium without having Dixie Dean as the primary. If you've got 3 or 4 statues, the number one's still got to be Dixie Dean. Just make a new one so it's in keeping with the rest. That kind of thing.
Definitely, but I do agree with you as well about leaving the statues at Goodison. I think that's the best thing as well. I think obviously the likes of Dixie and the Holy Trinity made the mark at Goodison, and the legacy should stay there as well, even if it comes with us to the Bramley Moore.
Yeah, where are we going to put the one of Sergio Ramos?
Oh yeah, we've got a few of them out there, haven't we?
Oh no, he's getting the stand name. He's the big South stand named after him, hasn't he? That's right.
One of Pippa Inzaghi from 2007. What else?
Demba Ba.
Oh God, Demba! I forget about Demba Ba.
Well, I think that is exhausting the statues. Then if we have one for every time, players give us a good afternoon like that.
Yeah, there's been some fond memories there as well. I mean, sure you can find a place for them somewhere else, even if it's in the dock next door. keep them in like a little storage container and wheel them out whenever there's a derby just to wind them up.
Buy Nelson's Dock and fill it with statues like that.
Yeah, no, just wheel them all out on a derby day just to annoy the fans when they walk in.
Lovely stuff.
But there you have it. A couple of mixed views, but I think we can agree with it's a case of not over exhausting the statue idea. But I think, to be fair, you guys both came up with much better shouts than I did. I think Neville Southall would have been my prime choice as well. And Max, your shout as well, Brian LeBone and the cup winners from '66. That's another brilliant shout. I think.
Yeah.
I think I was probably a bit clutching at straws with Big Dunk, to be honest with you, when you compare them to what those players achieved. And I think Brian LeBone actually is probably the most criminally underrated when it comes to the sort of iconic status. I think because everyone said, didn't they, when all the ex-captains said if they all got together that they'd want LeBone to captain the captains, and I think says everything you need to know about Brian LeBone. And obviously the Everton quote, the Everton with 20 Liverpudlians quote is only going to add to the legacy that he left as well.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's a brilliant little discussion though, and it's certainly one that was worth keeping an eye on, I think, as we move closer to moving into the new stadium. But there you have it. That's the end of this discussion. If you have any other ideas for new statues for the stadium, as always, get commenting on the video on YouTube and let us know who you'd have for a brand new statue. Like and subscribe as well. Thank you guys for watching on the Toffee Blues.